we keep on conducting such free webinars, interactions, discussions with different educational institutions, primarily to make them aware about the industry so that they can understand, explore, and make their career in future. Now, PMC concept is this that on a turnkey basis, all these things are available at a one-stop solution provider concept. That we take lead in terms of giving you the complete solution, what lab you want to make, depending upon the scope of work, what should be the ideal layout, ideal in the sense that it should comply to different regulatory body requirements. Like, there are some regulations which are restricted within India, like FSSAI. There are few regulations which are primarily focusing on the export consignments like EPIDA and EIC. And there are some specific sector-specific requirements like tea board, spice board, and all that. So layout and then basic equipment, of course, in line with the scope fixed by for the lab, we give you support in terms of what will be the number, nature, and sensitivity of different equipments, chemicals, consumable, what type of manpower is required to basically run the lab in terms of their educational qualification, experience, expertise. And as we said that we are into training also, so we handhold, train, make experts in their domain, the existing manpower as well. And of course, all these things are done to comply to 17025, which is an international standard for quality compliance for testing, competency enforcement in the testing and verification sector. Then again, interacting with the NABL, what all problems you are facing, then application, review and follow up and so on. We are supporting to our other business partners like who are into primarily manufacturing part. So we give basic support in terms of training and documentation for 9,000, 22,000, 14,000 and all that. Then in process quality assurance labs are there in all manufacturing units, which is a enforcement by regulatory body in India. So we support them in terms of how lab should be made, how it should be away from the processing unit and not very away, proximity as well as the separation part. Then what all activities they are doing depending upon their metrics, like somebody is performing milk testing, somebody is spice testing, somebody meat testing, and so on. So there are specific IPQA lab requirement in a specific industry. So that way we are supporting them. Then project management and process management, we are primarily supporting them in self-life, then process validations, then compliances, product labeling, and all these things. The industries in which we deal with is in front of you, starting from food to testing lab, where and all analytical part is involved, testing is involved, validation is involved, manpower is involved, sophisticated equipments are involved. All these sectors are primarily in our forte of addressing their issues and compliances to regulatory bodies. Different regulatory bodies are involved in that. Here you can see reflections of some of our key associates. In the upper part of the slide, you can see the private parties, and the down part of the slide, you can see government organizations with whom we are presently associated with different projects, whatever we are dealing with them, and primarily focusing on in and around laboratory, PMC concept, then method validations, then NABL compliance, and so on. This slide shows you the spectrum of our organization, what are different main sectors that we are dealing with, and different projects we have handled with these sectors for your ready reference. These are different regulatory bodies in India to whom any food manufacturer come across at any certain point of their operations. So starting from FSSAI to everyone, and 17025 is controlled by NABL in India. So NABL also becomes integral and important part of this whole chain. So we are having expertise to handhold you, to support you in better understanding a specific regulation related to your specific product operations. So coming to today's discussion on traceability, let us understand why it is important. If we are going for compliance to international standard like ISO 17025 2017, the standard is specified at different headings the importance of traceability. We will see in due course. Now, traceability is what we have to do. And second thing is, what is the compliance which need to be met to complete the concept of traceability with a specific operation. We will see in due course what I meant by this. Now, just to refresh all of us, we are talking about laboratory. And laboratory in a bigger concept is look like this. There is a sample for testing. It could be a regulatory sample, it could be in-process sample, it could be any market sample. It is submitted to a laboratory where lab performs some processes under good laboratory practices. And then lab gives a result. On the basis of this result, a lot of things are being dependent. Like many things are there, your financial, your business, your compliances, food safety, food quality, and there are many aspects depending upon this final result, which is released by a testing lab. So this is the whole operation in which we will be looking for traceability in today's discussion. Few lines about myself, what all I have achieved in last 30 years, and where and all I am associated with, and what all I have accomplished, and what all I am trying to do. Again, with the request that it is all a learning process. We all learn every day, and still I am learning every day, interacting with all of you at different platforms. So now, let us see what we meant by legal traceability in relation to a laboratory operation. If you see the standard 17025 clause 4 is talking about the legal status of the laboratory. Now, if we are worried that what is the legal status, registration of your organization, that is the testing lab, under Companies Act, right? This is called the legal status of the laboratory. Along with that, you need to have NOC from Pollution Control Board. These are the two things, and apart from that, building laws, operations, safety, fire safety, all these things are part of the building. But external registration and approvals, if we see, primarily it falls into registration of the company and no objection certificate from the respective pollution control board, wherein all your lab is placed. Now, in this respect, if lab is of a government operation, right? So by nature of your lab being a government establishment, that doesn't require a legal status to be submitted as per the requirement of NABL, specific requirement. Otherwise, the standard is asking for every lab to produce the legal status. In NABL concept, in India concept, if we are talking specifically, then all government labs are exempted from submitting the registration, and of course, NOC for Pollution Control Board is required, but registration is exempted for government. Now, one specific question which will come to our mind, that why we need to have this registration? What this registration has to do with my technical competency? You are right. Your registration or not getting registered with the Companies Act has nothing to do with your competency or operations. But what happens that, as we said in the first slide, where lab is reproducing or producing the report On the basis of this report, a lot of business and legal and other aspects are being decided. Now, if business is involved, financials are involved, operations are involved, it may lead to positive or negative both ways, end of the day with some conflict. Now, if a conflict happens, where and all we are leading to court of law, right? This is a common understanding. If there is a conflict, then only we go to court. And when we go to court, the basic framework of a court is the documentary evidence you or me can produce in favor or against each other. Right. So first thing court is asking, who is the legal entity who is responsible for this reporting? Now, if lab is not registered, in that case, who will be held responsible legally? Nobody. That is why it is enforced that an organization willing to work in the testing sector, willing to go for compliances of 17025, because unless and until you are accredited, your testing report has no value to customer. So if you are willing to do that, then end of the day, if there is a conflict, you will be held responsible. And court can only listen, hear, and table and take a decision against or for a legal entity. If entity is not there, then there is no action which can be taken up. So legally, to make organization responsible for what they do, legal registration or legal entity is important. Pollution Control Board, of course, you can't operate anything violating the norms and rules of the State Pollution Control Board or Central Pollution Control Board. In case of government, why exemptions are given? That the entity itself is the government of India. In reference to if we are talking in India. So if government is the party, then no need to go for specific legal registrations and legal identities. So hope I am clear on the legal traceability. If there is any specific question, please make a note. We will discuss in our section after this presentation. Now we are talking about traceability. So let us find out what is the traceability of the organization in India held responsible to establish traceability. NABL you can see here. One second, let me how I can get this. You can see here NABL. I'm not getting the marker, but anyway. So NABL traceability, if we are establishing, then we have to see that this NABL is related to APLEC. APLEC is in turn associated with or related to ILAC. And this is the highest agency in terms of traceability to 17025. So if the question comes that why and how your report generated in one part or one corner of India, or for that matter, any country, is traceable across globe, acceptable. Traceable means acceptable here for reports. So this acceptability is coming out of this international, the highest authority, then Asia level authority, and then India level authority. So this is how NABL is having the traceability, and that is why if NABL is making or ensuring any report or any testing in India, that is automatically acceptable across globe because of this international traceability, right? Now coming back to why it is not moving. Just a minute, I think there was some issue. That's why it was not moving. Let me see. Okay. Now, process traceability. Process traceability, we are talking within the laboratory. So first thing we have cleared that a lab is to be legally responsible. That is why registration is required. Then within the laboratory, manpower traceability is required. We have discussed that educational qualification, experience, training, expertise with the specific testing requirement in lab. Method means it has to be traceable to international standards, means any reference method only lab is supposed to use. Coming to machine, a specific machine with required sensitivity has to be used. For example, you are doing metal analysis in your lab. So if you are doing minerals, then atomic absorption is the required machine. If you are doing heavy metals, then ICP-MS is the required machine. This is the concept of traceability in terms of machine. Method example we can give you that in terms of method, if you are using BIS method, FSSAI method, AOAC method, ISO method, all these methods are traceable. That is the method traceability. Manpower, we have already discussed that educational qualification, especially in case of macrobiological testing, you need to have some educational background of macrobiology at any stage of your studies. Then coming to CRM. Certified reference material like chemical standards and macrobiological cultures. So 17034 is the traceability that need to be ascertained when you are purchasing the CR. Calibration. Calibration means any laboratory which is performing calibration has to be accredited as per 17025. So you need to get your equipment, your glassware, your consumable, which is critical to operations, calibrated through a laboratory, which in turn is accredited as per 17025. Chemicals. Now coming to chemicals, for example, HPLC grade, LCMS grade, ICP-MS grade, we are talking high-end testing activities, of course. For proximate testing, there is no some chemical traceability which is not required. But for high-end testing, chemical traceability is required in this sense. Suppose you are using a chemical in ICP-MS testing, which is not of the required supra-pure grade, then it will be a non-conformance as per the requirements of 17025 and NABL specific requirements. Now this question of why is coming into picture. Now why it is required? If manpower is not of required capability and competency, your final result is question. If you are not following specific traceable methods, then your result is in question. If you are not using a specific machine for required sensitivity, then your results are in question. CRM again, and all these things are leading to another concept. If you have traceability, it will have a certificate, right? And you know, type B uncertainty of a method is estimated out of the values which is reflected on the certificates. So two-way, accuracy of result and establishing the uncertainty of the process of the method, you need to have traceabilities for all these activities, right? Another important concept in lab operation is quality control traceability. Now coming to quality control traceability, once you have established the lab, you have established the processes. Now what the standard is asking, are you able to run the process on a consistent, repeatable basis? This is the question which need to be answered. Now in this stage of lab operations, you need to fix internal quality checks, IQC. ILC means inter-laboratory comparisons. Now, there is another concept which is added in 2017 version is intra-laboratory comparisons. Big setups we are talking. Then PT means proficiency testing. Now, why this is required? You have established everything. And again, the PDCA cycle of any international or national quality concept, that when we have established something, how we are ensuring that our processes are running on a consistent, repeatable, continuous basis. To answer this, all these things are required. Now coming back to IQC, traceability is established within laboratory because you are using traceable CRM, qualified person, sensitive machines, right? We have seen in the previous slide. And of course, you are using calibrated equipment, gadget, and other things. ILC is established that you have to conduct intra-laboratory comparisons with another testing lab having the same scope and capabilities, having NABL accreditation. And at least 5 different labs need to be involved in this activity. Statistically, if it is more, always good, but minimum is 5 laboratories. Proficiency testing, the traceability for proficiency testing stands out to be ISO 17043. Again, international standard controlled by NABL in India, wherein an organization is accredited to generate homogeneous sample for distribution to different laboratories, getting the data and calculating the jet score and complying that for the given matrix, given parameter, how many labs are having satisfactory jet score, right? Now, why this is important? Again, our objective. What is our objective? I should not get only accurate data. I should get consistently accurate data. That is the requirement of laboratory operations. And if we have established everything in line, clause 4, 5, 6, then 7 is coming up, wherein internally how you are ensuring on a day-to-day basis, the operations are still controlled, operations are still sensitive, operations are still repeatable and consistent. That is why quality control traceability is important. Now, just to have an overview of what all we have discussed. Personnel and their competency, first thing. Reference standard culture, again, traceability, required grade. Then the environmental conditions in which it has to be stored, sterile conditions. Equipment sensitivity, we had discussed in detail. Quality control, processes, methods. Testing methods, AOAC method, IS method, ISO method. Purchase procedure and record. See, again, going back to that, if a laboratory needs anything, it has to go to a purchase department. Now, purchase department is the external face to a laboratory with the vendor. So, communicating the vendor the exact requirement of laboratory in terms of sensitivity, precision, accuracy, which is required for different activities in the laboratory. And of course, everything need to be controlled by a management system, a representative, you can call it quality manager or quality department, quality assurance, whatever way you may call it. A team is controlling, monitoring, implementing, improving on a everyday basis, continual basis, all these processes which are established and which need to be continually followed, upgraded with the time, and whatever checks and balances are made in the beginning that need to be remain constant throughout the process, day by day, year by year, and so on. Now, to conclude, how AKD can help you, your organization, and many of you who are connected, who are in their pass out stage, college stage, are trying to set up industry, trying to make their career in different sectors. So gap analysis we do, then documentation we support, training and coaching we do, internal audits and MRM we support, and of course NABL, FSSAI, EIC, EPIDA, all these compliances. So whether you are manufacturing unit, you are testing lab, in-house lab, third-party lab, whether you are a research center, all these people either in production, process, or compliance. So QA and QC both we are supporting with our available expertise across India. So if anybody is interested further to get associated and get any further information on any specific topic, most welcome. If you are further interested, we can be part of you and help you to achieve your respective goals. So with this, thanks a lot once again for sparing your time and discussing few things on this weekend day. Now PPT is over. What I was supposed to deliver in half an hour in terms of traceability, I have already completed. Now the forum is open for any question hour session. Please go ahead, unmute yourself, ask your question, or if you are not in a position to ask or comfortable, then put it in chat. Neha will read for all of us, and I will try my best to answer your queries if I can do right now, or if I am not very clear, then I will consult experts, books, references, and come back to you. Thank you.
Sir, there is one question asked by Agrotech Group. What should be the frequency of IQC, ILC, and PT?
Okay. See, as far as frequency of any of these activities are concerned, it all depends upon what big operations you are dealing with, how many samples you are analyzing. Standard is very clear. If you are using, for example, if you are using a balance or an equipment once in a week, right? So it will be more advisable to calibrate the instrument whenever you are supposed to use it. But if you are using the instrument on a daily basis, then there is no choice left that you have to do intermediate check or calibration on a daily basis. So IQC, in IQC, there are different sections, retesting, replicate testing, spike testing, blind sample, and then other means and aspects are there. So all these things has to be done on a regular basis, depends upon number of sample inflow. What standard says that roughly it should be 5% of total samples intake. Exactly, if it is not 5%, at least 3 to 5%, we can fix it. As far as inter-laboratory comparisons are concerned, ILC and PT, something goes beyond your laboratory. So normally the labs are having a concept that they divide the whole scope in 2 years of cycle in a way that almost all the parameters are covered either in either in ILC or PT. If they are not covered into ILC and PT, then of course IQC is there to represent it to the auditor. But one thing need to be very clear to all of us, that if there is a proficiency testing available and you have not participated, then you have to explain why. But if your matrix proficiency testing is not being done in India or outside India, and you have searched and you have data to convince the auditor that this particular matrix, this parameter PT is not conducted by any PT provider in last 1 year, then it is okay. In that case, you can conduct ILCs if other parameters or other labs are doing this. And if this facility is also not there, at least you can continue to do more and more IQCs. Like suppose you are doing once in a month, you can go twice in a month or thrice in a month. So it is all rational, and primarily the auditor faces and focuses on your intent of implementing it. Method PT is available and you have not participated, then no one can explain the auditor that you have all intention but you cannot do because PT was not available. Hope I am clear on this.
Hi sir, I am Kumbha Gopaya. I have a query.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now I am working as a service engineer or laboratory equipments. So I don't have any experience before auditor. So it's considered as a fresher, I think. So how should I come to? I want to move to the auditing, like service engineer to auditor. How can I do?
You want to become auditor, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So see, you can go to NABL website, details are there, but just to give you the brief, you
Okay.
need to have, if I'm not wrong, at least 5 to 6 years of analytical working experience,
Okay.
right? Then you need to undergo 5 days internal auditor training program conducted at different locations in India. and
Okay.
submit your detail through online form, which is there on the website, that
Okay.
you are willing to work as a assessor with NABL. Submit all your details. See,
Okay.
for selecting you or anyone to work as a assessor or auditor, NABL has the last right to decide about it. So you can't force yourself that I am competent, you please make me auditor or assessor. Normally, NABL auditors we call assessors. So this is the process you can follow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So there is one question asked by Mr. Ajit Kumar Shah. How can we verify automatic Geldal apparatus for protein estimation in food samples?
Okay, see, Ajit ji, automated system is not the official method, but of course, many laboratories are using it. So the official manual Geldal method, you need to have the facilities, or you can have a reference sample from a PT provider where values are known, which is called blind sample. Then you have to take lysine or ammonium phosphate or ammonium sulfate, I am not clear. Ammonium sulfate, I believe. These are two chemicals which are having known nitrogen content. So start from the process of digestion to final distillation and titration. You can establish by this also. You need to take same sample, run by conventional method, run by automated system method, if both are available in your lab, and compare the results, how much variation is coming. Then take lysine or known nitrogen content sample, do the whole process validation, and then document that if you are getting the recoveries of nitrogen content well within the variation of method, then your automated system is validated and fit to be used. Hope I am clear on this, Ajit ji. Yes, anyone else? Anyone specific
So
question?
there is one more question. While buying chemical from a vendor, is there any guideline that the vendor need to meet, or how can we choose a suitable vendor?
See, choosing a suitable vendor has different aspects. One is the availability of your required material with the vendor, sufficient quantity. Another is how fast he can deliver, right? So these two things need to be taken into account. But as we discussed that between vendor and you comes your purchase department. Now purchase department has a set of questionnaire which they will be sending. In many cases, the purchase department goes physically to audit the vendor. What is the space they have, how much chemical consumable they can store, so that at a given point of time, it should not happen that you have placed the order and vendor is again further placing the order to Delhi or some other imported chemical. So these are some protocol which need to be followed. As far as quality of material is concerned, that you anyway specify, like metal analysis, you will take supra pure nitric acid. For protein digestion, you will take normal laboratory grade sulfuric acid. These are basic things that you need to specify to your purchase department. Then they will be interacting with the vendor, and on the basis of their capability, their storage capability, their pricing, their delivery time, all these things are taken into account before selecting a vendor, right?
Sir, there is one more question asked during the registration process. Even though CRM supplier is ISO 17034 accredited, is it necessary to be traceable to ILAC MRA?
No, see, as far as 17034 traceability, if the manufacturer is establishing on the certificate, then you need not further explore whether that manufacturer is uh, having MRA with APLAC or ILAC or not. For you, that is closes your search, that on the certificate traceability to 17034 is documented. Yes. Anyone else?
So there is no more question in chat box.
Okay, so if there is no question, still we can wait for 2-3 minutes if somebody can recall something.
Hi sir, Himanshu this side. Hi sir, good morning.
Morning, Himanshuji. Yes.
Sir, a question from my side is that, sir, how can we fix the expiry date of the general analytical chemical? It's because of the generally manufacturer are not mentioning the expiry date on the chemical. So generally auditor asked what is the expiry date. So generally lab are using a 5 years, some are lab using a 3 years, some lab are using a 4 years. So sir, how can we the fix? Is there any guideline or is there any?
No, see, as far as general laboratory chemicals are concerned, it's not a guideline. Best practices, laboratory practices are this, that you please mention the date of opening the bottle on the bottle itself, or whatever way you are making it traceable. Then there will be regular reviews in terms of the physical appearance. Like suppose, for example, what chemical? Sodium sulfate is there, for example. Now, sodium sulfate should be a free-flowing granular powder, correct?
Yes, yes sir.
Now, you have observed after 6 months or after 1 year that there is lump formation in sodium sulfate.
Yes sir, yes.
Now, you can specify in a general SOP or guideline that if there is any lump formation, if there is any precipitation, if there is any discoloration. Okay.
Okay.
Suppose you are making, forget about the chemical. Suppose we are making solutions in the lab, right?
Yes,
you
sir.
are making, say, thiosulfate or sodium hydroxide or whatever solution. Now you have given a timeline. For example, you have given, say, 15 days or 20 days or 1 month. But after making the solution, you observed after 1 week time that there is fungal growth.
Yes.
So you have to discard it. So in my opinion, general laboratory chemicals, you need to have a SOP for general observations like lump formation, fungal growth, precipitation, discoloration. For example, in laboratories, we are using some chemical for color determination of sugar or something. I think some amine compound, aniline compound.
Okay.
Now, when it is fresh, it is colorless. With the time you are opening and closing the bottom, it start developing yellow color.
Exactly,
So
sir.
you can put a condition over there that if yellow color develop, then you have to discard the bottle. If lump is developed, you have to discard sodium sulfate. If fungal growth has developed, then you have to discard the sodium hydroxide or sodium thiosulfate solution. These are some specific ways and means by which you can establish the shelf life.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So it will be an open-ended thing. As long as lump is not developing, your sodium sulfate is valid or having expiry. The moment you have developed the lumps, then you have to discard it. Right, sir?
Okay, sir. Thank you. Got it.
Okay.
Sir, there is one question asked by Mr. Uday Shankar. We are testing compressed gases like nitrogen, compressed air, oxygen, etc. Who are PT providers in India?
PT provider for compressed gases. I am not very sure as on date. Please make a note this question. I was auditing IOCL and there they are using some in ammonia plant manufacturing. They are monitoring some gases, oxygen, nitrogen and all that. They were getting it done from some lab. I don't know whether that lab is NABL or not. So I'll come back to you. I will explore with them that which lab they are following for checking the purity of these compressed gases. Whether the lab is NABL or not, I am not sure. But I will check and come back to you. Neha, please make a note of this question. Remind me, I will update you and you can accordingly update Chauhanji for this.
Okay, sir.
Right.
Sir, there is one more question asked by Mr. Rajendra Shinde. In case of CRM, what is expiry if it is not mentioned?
First of all, I don't see any CRM which is not having expiry. Suppose it is not having also. In your case, you must be observing some CRM. In that case, you can establish it by yourself in terms of the purity or in terms of the concentration part which you are establishing. And vice versa is also applicable. Suppose CRM is stable for 2 years. Now, please read on a CRM certificate that the manufacturer is claiming the stability in sealed conditions. Now, once you have opened the CRM, then the statement of 2 year is no more valid. So in any case, you have to establish that 2 year within your system. So both ways, whether it is mentioned or whether it is not mentioned, you have to continually establish the shelf life or stability of standard in individual conditions or mixed condition, whichever way is available in your lab. So it doesn't mean that a standard is stable for 2 years, means you will keep on using the standard without any check, right? And if the standard date is not mentioned, again, you have to follow the same process that every CRM has to be subjected to intermediate checks, which is again requirement of 17025 to further extend the shelf life or the expiry date. If it is not compliant, then you have to discard it. Hope I am clear on this, sir. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Any other specific question?
No, sir. There is no more question in chat box right now.
That's all. Okay, then I think, Neha, if anyone comes back with a specific question, please make a note of that, right? And
Yes,
this gas calibration, remind me. And any other specific question is coming, please make a note. We will discuss and come back on the responses.
okay.
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 Chalo, thank you very much, all of you, once again, for sparing your time, and I'm sure that this may have triggered many thoughts. This may lead to many other questions also, and we all are here to, in a way, solve these questions. It's not your problem, it's our problem as well, and we will try to solve this to the best of our satisfaction mutually. With this, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you everyone for attending the session.